Some fans started praying because there were rumors that someone in the Gutfeld family had a neuromuscular disease. Other fans were happy for Greg and his wife because they just had a baby. The internet has been full of questions about why the popular TV personality wasn't on TV for a while. This happened at a time when many of his fans would have loved to hear his social comments on the eventful first few days of President Trump's administration, which saw many of former President Joe Biden's executive orders thrown out and other shocking events. Gutfeld's quiet was even more noticeable because it was said that when he came back, he might only be saying goodbye to fans because of the sad news about his wife. It made fans even more worried when they saw Gutfeld on TV again, looking very skinny. Some even thought he had lost a lot of weight for being at home for more than 45 days. Because of this, facts and fantasy got mixed up. Fans are now interested in what's really going on. Is Gutfeld's wife really sick? Is he not feeling well? Also, is he really giving up TV? To be honest and save you time, I think the answer to the first question is the simplest. No news has come out that Gutfeld's wife is having any health problems. It was announced that she was pregnant at some point, which is the most important health news. That information wasn't shared with anyone because her husband likes to keep their family life secret. Most people who spread rumors have taken that in a different direction and used Gutfeld's disappearance to make up a bad story that they can use to make money, which is obviously not true. Gutfeld doesn't care about the weeks of talk and speculation about his mysterious departure from the public eye. He doesn't need to. Once he got back, the TV star told everyone that he and his wife had their first child together in December, a daughter named Mira. With great happiness, he said in a short statement, "It is with great joy that my wife Elena and I have welcomed a baby girl into the world. Mira is healthy and has a real set of lungs." He then joked that his daughter has his wife's beautiful eyes and his rock-hard abs. He also said, "We are working hard to teach her 3 languages and make her do very hard workouts." She is already very perceptive and asked if Jesse wears a toupee. I told her that he definitely wears a wig. The new dad is clearly enjoying being a dad and is ready to praise Mira for every skill she might have based on his own skills as a dad. Being open and honest about his part has been enough for Gutfeld, who said that he was bad at everything. He said that he was there for his wife emotionally when she had to feed daughter Mira late at night and change her clothes. Gutfeld tried to explain his effect by saying, "I kind of wander around and go, is everything okay? I offer emotional support, but, Elena is pretty hands-on and keeps me away from it. She told me I'm terrible at everything. She says I'm very clumsy." Gutfeld told his co-host that he watched all of Taylor Sheridan's movies when she asked what he did during the day when Mira was sleeping. Gutfeld didn't seem to understand that it wasn't normal for famous people to say they were weak. He was honest and said that his wife has been taking care of their new girl most of the time. The TV star could be excused for all his mistakes, though, because he did one important thing to get ready for his growing family. He bought a big new house where he and Alina could raise Mira. According to the new home records, Gutfeld paid more than $10 million for the house in the high-end area of Soho. Some fans didn't know that Gutfeld, who is 60 years old, was married and were shocked to learn that he was on father leave for almost 46 days. I can see why you're shocked. When it comes to small pieces of personal information, Gutfeld is very private. He might be very vocal about his political views, though. It's not like he talks a lot about his family on his own social media pages. There are times when Elena lets people into her family life, but she's not as open about her friendship with Gutfeld. In fact, she has only posted one picture of her husband on Instagram in their 20-year marriage. Don't worry, we've put together some information on the couple. Gutfeld talked about the first time he met his wife and said that he knew right away that they were meant to be together. He said it himself. I met her and thought, oh, that's my wife. I just knew it. I then tried to talk to her for 3 days in Portugal. They met in Portugal. He worked as an editor for Maxim UK and she worked as a photo editor for Maxim Russia. After they started dating, she quickly went to London to be with Gutfeld. But his job at Maxim ended after only 2 years and was not renewed. After moving to New York, where both of their jobs took off, the couple stayed there. In those 2 years, they got married in New York in a legal ceremony. As you might expect, they haven't talked much about their wedding or marriage, but Gutfeld has made a name for himself as the cool conservative and has risen to the top of Fox News. You may not have heard much about their marriage. He got to this point by staying true to the ideas he made up on his own. Gutfeld was born in San Mateo, California, and was raised as a Catholic. He went to the all-boys Roman Catholic Junipero Serra High School and then to the University of California, Berkeley, where he got a bachelor's degree in English. Gutfeld started to change the way he thought about politics while he was in college, despite his background. I became a libertarian by being around libertarians, and I became a conservative by being around liberals, he said to explain the change. You realize that there's something clearly in common between the two groups, the left and the right. The worst part of each of them is the moralizing. From then on, this point of view would be a big part of who he was in the coming years. It's kind of important to know how he became a libertarist. Gutfeld talked about how his views had changed. When I was a teenager, I was a liberal. It helped me in school. If you got signatures for the nuclear freeze, you got extra credit. It was clear to him that if you seemed to care about something, the teachers cared about you and your friends. If you agreed with liberal ideas, you didn't have to think too much about it. This stance paid off for him, and he made the most of it. He says, I thought that was great because it really helped. It did help me get better grades, but after a few debates in school where I had to think about things, I realized I was a fake. It was a bad idea for me to start looking at myself again when I went to Berkeley. You were just going about your business with a mark on your back. He went on to talk about how he came up with libertarianism. On the left, there are people who want to tell you how to behave under the guise of tolerance, unless you disagree with them. That's when patience goes out the window, which goes against the whole point of tolerance. There you have it, the culturally correct moralizing. The other way to make people moral comes from church when you become a conservative. But libertarianism is what you're left with if you take those two things out of the picture. Before he became popular as a TV host, political commentator, creator, and comedian, a well-known figure in the U.S., that's how fans got to know Gutfeld, the cool conservative, along with Fox News's The Five and Gutfeld. He was just another college graduate looking for his first job as a reporter. Even though he went to Berkeley, he was able to get a job running chores at the conservative magazine American Spectator. The actor said this about his first job: "My first job was at the American Spectator. I worked as Bob Tyrrell's assistant for less than a year. I drove him around in his diesel Mercedes and counted all of his books in his library, among other things. As an added safety measure, I took pictures of his personal items. Bob Tyrrell is a crazy person, but it's a great crazy person." After that, he tried to become a screenwriter but failed. He was lucky to get a job at Prevention, a lifestyle magazine that focuses on health. It was funny that this is where Gutfeld began drinking and trying drugs at an alarmingly fast rate. Later, he got a job as a staff writer at Men's Health and was later made editor-in-chief of the group. After that, he became the top editor of Stuff, which was owned by Dennis Publishing at the time. He would soon lose his job, though, because it was said that he made fun of Girl Scouts, cat fans, and even his boss. On top of all of these, there was another event featuring several hired midgets. Now you see it. Gutfeld paid for a few dwarves to go to a Magazine Publishers of America meeting and told them to be as annoying and loud as they could be. You can guess how very different those two things were going to be. Because the joke got a lot of attention, Gutfeld's bosses didn't like it and he was fired soon after. He edited Dennis Publishing's Maxim magazine in the UK after being fired from Stuff as head of brand development. Then his contract ended without being renewed because the number of readers dropped while he was in charge. He would go on to write for the Huffington Post, which was just starting out at the time. It turned out that his new fans liked his humorous and mocking posts, which helped him get a job at Fox News, where he hosted the hour-long show Red Eye. But TV didn't take him away from writing totally, even though he thought his time with magazines was over. His writings about the magazine business made this pretty clear. Magazines are fun to work at, and being an editor isn't a real job. You don't lift anything heavy, you're not protecting the country, and you're not saving anyone's life. Being an editor is the only job in the world where you can do well while being drunk all the time. At any given time, 65% of the world's editors are drunk at work. He kept writing, though, using the daily Gutfeld blog as his online outlet. Gutfeld quit as host of Red Eye in February 2015, and Tom Schill took over the job. Third, he started a new late-night talk show on Fox News every week called The Greg Gutfeld Show. It played on Saturday nights. After that, in 2021, it was stated that the show would move to weeknights and be called Gutfeld, starting in the second quarter. Hey Gutfeld passed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in the nightly numbers in August to become the most popular late-night talk show in the USA. Over 2 million people watched the show every night, which was more than The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel Live, and this was just the tip of the iceberg. To think of how many people watched Gutfeld and The Five, seeing more than 6 million people each week. Gutfeld became one of the most famous people in the media when he got a lot of attention, and some people started calling him a right-wing agitator. Since he had worked for magazines like Stuff and UK Maxim, some people even thought he was fake. Then, in 2023, he almost didn't get a job because of some of his controversial and extreme comments. One time this happened was when Russia invaded Ukraine. Gutfeld said that footage from the fight was being used by the media to make money by playing on people's emotions. He said, "I can feel the driving force of these stories that have sped up and are building up to form a narrative, and they only go in one direction. However, I can't help but feel that this is a lot like other stories we've been through in the digital age, where an image is taken and then played over and over again to make you feel something because that makes money for news companies." Benjamin Hall, a foreign affairs reporter for Fox News who was in the middle of what was going on in Ukraine, told Gutfeld to shut up. Just a few days later, Hall was badly hurt while another Fox employee and a Ukrainian journalist were killed in a surprise attack on the journalist by Russian forces. Gutfeld realized he was very wrong. Gutfeld would say bad things more than once. On the talk show The Five, the panelists talked about the new Florida education standards that will teach public school kids that slave labor gave people skills that they could sometimes use for their own good. Jessica Tarlov, who is Jewish and was on the panel, said she didn't like the idea that some black people gained from slavery. She asked if the same thing could be said about the Jews who were locked up in concentration camps during World War II, when Hitler killed about 6 million of them. Gutfeld answered her question by saying, "Have you ever read Search for Meaning?" Viktor Frankl talks about how you had to be skilled and useful to stay alive in a concentration camp. As you might think, this didn't go over well, especially with the AIDS memorial, which had a 6-paragraph social media post to say so. It is true that some Jews may have survived temporarily because they were thought to be useful, but it is important to remember that the Holocaust was a planned killing of all Jews with the end goal of eradicating them all. Plus, we should avoid such oversimplifications when talking about this complex, tragic story, and Gutfeld was wrong to think that was the end of it. In a statement, the White House's spokesman responded to his comment, saying, "What Fox News allowed to be said on their air yesterday and has so far failed to condemn is an obscenity." Another horrible, dangerous, and lie was told by a Fox News host, which hurts the memory of the millions of people who died in the Holocaust. The host also said, "Let's get something straight that the American people fully understand, and that is not complicated. A slave trade and the Holocaust were both terrible events." Gutfeld has called for civil war, attacked several former co-workers, and said that Palestinians around the world knew about the October 7th Hamas bombings ahead of time. One of his co-hosts quit because he was so difficult to work with. But if you ask Gutfeld what he thinks about some of this, he might say that most of what he says is meant to be funny and that some people are taking him way too seriously. His casual style and comments are known to his fans, who would agree that he is telling the truth. His 2 shows are also very popular on cable news, which proves his point. Some people have even called Gutfeld the king of late-night shows. This is why a lot of people were dying for him to come back. Fans who are worried about him have said things like, "I sound too worried, but since Greg has been back, does anyone think he seems off? I think he's not feeling well, and he looks like he's not feeling well either. We never see pictures of his kid, and he never talks about being a dad." Gutfeld has always said that he is committed to living a good life, which includes food and exercise. Any change in how you look could be caused by those changes in your habits. In terms of being seen when he's not there, Gutfeld is well known and values his solitude. It's clear that he doesn't talk much about his private life. It was an easy case of his wife getting pregnant and him taking time off to help her and meet their new child. It makes sense that the mother and child would need the husband and father to be fully focused while they get their strength back. This doesn't mean that someone is getting sick or has been given a terrible illness. When someone isn't on social media for a long time, especially if it's their main source of income, it's easy to think the worst of them. But if their family or employer doesn't say anything, we think it's safe to assume they are healthy and hope their absence is all in good fun, like the new dad who wrote when he told everyone about the birth of his daughter, "See, that's how you keep a secret." Thanks for the nice comments. I'll see you soon.